May I request the dignitaries to please come on the dais. I request Dr. Shilpa Kalyan to lead the dignitaries onto the stage, please. Good morning, everyone. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರೆದಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ತುಂಬು ಹೃದಯದ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರುತ್ತಾ ಇಂದಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆರಂಭಿಸೋಣ. I, Dr. Anupama BN, Associate Professor, Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, accord a hearty welcome to the invited guests, delegates and MAHE fraternity. Literature and films have been an integral part of our oral, written and visual traditions. And festive spaces such as m.i.l.a.p, Manipal International Literature and Arts Platform are a beautiful celebration of art forms that touch everyone's life. The world of literature and films has advanced tremendously in the past century. Coupled with digital advancements, and its evolution has been faster than ever. As academicians, it is pivotal to critically engage ourselves with the community at large to bring varied meanings and perspectives towards the making of a city. m.i.l.a.p 2023, encompassing masterclasses, panel discussions, workshops, book exhibitions, book launches, film screenings, performances, literary and film competitions, is a site for conversing with the city. I'm sure this gives us enough reasons to be a part of this magnificent 4th edition of m.i.l.a.p at MAHE Bengaluru campus. With this, may I request Dr. Shilpa Kalyan, Head, Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, the mentor of m.i.l.a.p 2023, to deliver the welcome address.
Esteemed dignitaries on and off the dais, dear colleagues and dear students, a very good morning to one and all present here. Manipal International Literature and Arts Platform, m.i.l.a.p, the most coveted tradition of Manipal Academy of Higher Education, holds a special place in the hearts of connoisseurs of art and literature. After traversing into the creative expressions of the digital world in its 3rd edition from Manipal, m.i.l.a.p has now reached Namma Bengaluru to engage in a conversation with the city. It is my pleasure to welcome m.i.l.a.p to its newfound venue at MAHE Bengaluru campus. m.i.l.a.p is not just another event. It represents the values and culture of MAHE: integrity, transparency, quality, teamwork, execution with passion, and humane touch. m.i.l.a.p is our contribution as an educational institution towards social capacity building. It has taken us over 5 months of teamwork, planning, perseverance, sincere efforts to reach here. m.i.l.a.p is a synergy of several departments and institutions within MAHE. This has been an incredible learning experience for all of us. As the first edition of m.i.l.a.p for MAHE Bengaluru campus, this will remain deeply etched in the legacy of our campus. It is an honor that the Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences has been bestowed with the privilege of leading the first edition of m.i.l.a.p at Bengaluru campus. Walking arm in arm with us are Srishti Manipal Institute, Department of Library, Department of Public Policy, TAPI Management Institute, Department of Commerce, Manipal Institute of Technology, Manipal Law School from Bengaluru campus, Manipal Center for European Studies, Manipal Universal Press, and the Department of Humanities and Management, MIT, from Manipal campus. With utmost passion and sincerity, we have curated a series of panel discussions, masterclasses, workshops, film screenings, film and literary competitions, and stage performances over the next 3 days. What better way to start this spectacular festival than to have the context set through the keynote by the man who introduced the world to India's 780 languages, a critic, a thinker, educator, editor, and activist, Professor Ganesh N. Devi. Sir, it is an honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. A hearty welcome to you, sir. We are eager to listen to your keynote. Yeah. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Professor Madhu Veeraraghavan, Pro Vice Chancellor, MAHE Bengaluru Campus, Ms. Jayashree Kasarvalli, author, Professor Neeta Inamdar, Chief Editor, Manipal Universal Press, Professor and Head, Manipal Center for European Studies, and Dr. Raghavendra Prabhu, Deputy Registrar, MAHE Bengaluru Campus. May I request Dr. Raghavendra Prabhu, Deputy Registrar, MAHE Bengaluru Campus, to felicitate the guests to welcome the guests on the days with saplings. Thank you, sir. We have with us today authors, poets, artists, literary critics, entrepreneurs, representatives from the publishing world, educators, representatives from the media, and students from various universities and colleges. We are happy to welcome all of you, a cordial welcome. A wholehearted welcome to the heads of all the departments and institutes, faculty, staff, and students of MAHE, Manipal, and Bangalore campus. To quote Arundhati Roy, literature allows us to explore difficult topics and ask difficult questions. By starting dialogues, it can help us move forward and find solutions. We hope this platform helps you connect with each other and begin a dialogue. We look forward to making m.i.l.a.p 2023 a pleasant, memorable experience to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shilpa Kalyan. Reminiscing the celebrated Kannada poet, Dr. K.S. Narasimhaswamy's unforgettable song, Deepavu Ninnade, Gaaliyu Ninnade, Aaradirali Belaku, Kadalu Ninnade, Hadagu Ninnade, Mulugadirali Baduku, which means the lamp is yours and the storm is yours as well. Let the lamp not blow out. The sea is yours and the ship is yours as well. Let life not sink. May I request all the dignitaries on the stage to proceed towards the ceremonial lamp lighting. I request Dr. Shilpa Kalyan to direct them for the lamp lighting ceremony. I also request the student coordinators of m.i.l.a.p 2023, Ms. Aheri Bose and Mr. Shafiullah, to represent the student community. Prosperity and good health shine on our lives. m.i.l.a.p 2023 is extremely special to all of us, as this marks the first m.i.l.a.p at MAHE Bengaluru campus. Several months of deliberations have led to the conceptualization of the theme of m.i.l.a.p 2023. This platform brings various artists, writers, practitioners, academicians, and many others to explore the possible ways to engage with the city and what it means to us. I request Dr. Girish N., Associate Professor, Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, to introduce the theme of m.i.l.a.p 2023.
Honorable Professor, Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Madhavi Raghavan, India's foremost public intellectual and cultural critic Professor Ganesh Devi, Professor Nitai Namdar, Dr. Raghavendra Prabhu, Madam Jayashree Kastravalli, Dr. Shilpa Kalyan, Dr. Sunayan Bhattacharya, and everyone gathered here. We chose In Conversation with Bengaluru, Spaces, Intersections, Transitions, and Imaginaries as the theme of m.i.l.a.p 2023 in an attempt to understand ourselves through the city. The city that we breathe in has a lot of meaning to convey to us. And as the philosopher Aristotle rightly said, the beginning of all wisdom lies in knowing about oneself. For all of us, probably for most of us, MAHE Bengaluru is a new campus. It's a new geographical entity. The material and the metaphorical space that we occupy in this megapolis defines us. Our literary, cultural, political, and economic ideas take shape in the city, which is in the constant mode of transition. This space is a historical entity. It is a living organism with its multiple intersections. It is a conglomeration of diverse people and a cluster of many imaginaries. On the one hand, it is a site of opportunity and equality, blurring social boundaries. On the other, it is a bundle of contradictions and inequities. It strives on the engine of greed, segregation, and exclusion. It is a city or multiple cities within it. It is the best of the places and it is the worst of the places. Through this literary and arts festival, we are beginning a conversation with our city. This conversation is necessary because spaces are not passive. They are constitutive and reflective of us. MAHE, as an institution of eminence, along with pursuit of knowledge and truth, brings to fruition its responsibility towards society. In addition to transformative academic activities, we are taking bold and necessary steps in nurturing our immediate spaces into sustainable, inclusive, safe, and resilient communities. We strive towards improving the quality of life for everyone without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This conversation with the city that we are beginning today, therefore, includes voices from all walks of life, with educators, poets, critics, artists, filmmakers, activists, citizens, and students across disciplines. We are hoping to contest the structures of meaning and engage in critical and reflective discussions that govern the given contours of Namma Bengaluru. Through this festival, we are reimagining what Ravidas, the contemporary of Kabir, had envisioned, a Begampura, a place without any pain, no wrongdoing, free from worry, terror, or torture, where none are third or second, all are one, where lives are fulfilling, happy, and meaningful. That's the vision for In Conversation with Bengaluru, Spaces, Intersections, Transitions, and Imaginaries. Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Girish N., the convener of m.i.l.a.p 2023, for the comprehensive introduction of the theme of m.i.l.a.p 2023, which sets the context for all the events to follow in the next 3 days. Though m.i.l.a.p is new to MAHE Bengaluru campus, it has already spread its charm and vibrancy few years ago at Manipal campus. It would be truly fascinating to know the legacy of m.i.l.a.p from the chief convener of the previous editions of m.i.l.a.p, 2017, 2018, and 2019, Professor Nita Inamdar. She is also the chief editor of Manipal Universal Press, which embraces publishing as a social and cultural practice. MUP not only champions the voices of renowned contemporary thinkers, but also provides opportunities to budding writers. I'm proud to announce that we will witness the release of 2 books published by MUP. May I request Professor Nita Inamdar, Jean Monnet Chair, Manipal Center for European Studies, the guest of honor for m.i.l.a.p 2023, to highlight the legacy of m.i.l.a.p and initiate the book release.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an emotional moment for me. It's, for me, almost like a handing in ceremony, because I led m.i.l.a.p 3 years, 2017, 2018, and 2019. I know the amount of work that goes into putting together a program of this nature. We worked for around 7 to 8 months, series of meetings, lot of debates, almost fights. Animesh is looking at me, Animesh, Sudhanshu, and my good old colleague Meera, who is now in another university but still manages to come to m.i.l.a.p. That's what m.i.l.a.p means to us. Even those who were associated with m.i.l.a.p earlier, it's very hard to not join for m.i.l.a.p if it's happening. And even I'm here for the same reason. So when it all started in 2016, in one of the meetings of MUP, Manipal Universal Press's editorial board meeting, where our then Vice Chancellor said maybe we should have, because he had just visited one major literature fest in India and he felt it was very, very commercialized. And so he came and said, maybe we should put up one literature fest in Manipal for the benefit of students and keep it non-commercial. And university decided to fund the entire m.i.l.a.p. He said, Nita, I'm giving you 20 lakhs. Do what you want. Imagine. But like typical middle class person that I decided to save a quarter of it for the next one. But within around 15 lakhs, we put together a m.i.l.a.p in 2017. Imagine 7 events that were happening simultaneously across Manipal campus. I know many people here, many youngsters here particularly, you might not have been to Manipal campus. It's a wonderful campus. And 7 events happening, we had a central venue like this, then there is a translation workshop which Meera coordinated for us at one time, then there is a theatre workshop happening, there is movie screenings happening, then there is a photography exhibition, there's art exhibition, there is there were youth events, there were street plays, and then there was children's literature fest. So ask for it and it was there. And that's how we put together m.i.l.a.p at one point. And I also need to recollect today my close friend, aide, partner in all my crimes, Revati Nadgir. Those who know me generally know her as well. And she also, though she was not able to join here, she did put up her work towards m.i.l.a.p. And Arvind, my colleague, my managing editor at MUP, when these 7 events were simultaneously happening at different institutions in MAHE, he held what we call as a control room for a literature fest. Very unusual, sounds very strange, but that's how much work it involved. And he's again still there in the sound room back there. So this is how much m.i.l.a.p has meant to all of us in Manipal. And So today I feel like a mother-in-law, handing over the reign to the. It's a reign, okay? I mean, those who know, it's a reign that a mother-in-law hands over to a daughter-in-law. She's not like my daughter-in-law, Shilpa, but still I know it's this kind of. And suddenly I need to have this feeling where I need to distance but still involved. In a way, I need to handhold the new team but not interfere. So it was a very tricky situation for me in between, where I wanted to say something, but then I felt, no, they should do it the way they want. I have done it the way I imagined for 3 years. Now it's time they do it as they imagine. They want to take it forward. With only one line suggestion to Shilpa and team, just to keep it non-commercial for at least years to come, as a non-commercial space, mainly planned for students and their learning and their interaction with writers and authors and playwrights and theatre people and all those people we have had as resource persons. So when Girish met me in Hegodu during the Samskriti Shibira in Hegodu and told me that the theme for this m.i.l.a.p is going to be the idea of city. So in conversation, it was precisely at that time that my child, my baby, now a grown-up, who claims to be a grown-up man, was moving to Bangalore for a job. So for a million other mothers like Yashoda, who had to send her child, her son, to Mathura, liked it or not, I felt something like the Gokula Nirgamana, which was inevitable in our lives. The idea of city came even in m.i.l.a.p. I had to let go, but for me, when Giri said it is in conversation with Bengaluru, I felt for many mothers, millions of mothers, trust me, it's a confrontation with the city. Okay, but please don't take it with a pinch of salt. It's a very motherly approach, but of course, I know it offers umpteen opportunities. That's a lure of opportunities, growth, success, money, power, probably, I don't know, and lot more that gets many youngsters to newer cities continuously. And we feel the number of Mathuras have also grown within the country. And therefore, this conversation that Girish calls as conversation becomes very important about cities. And very interestingly, I mean, those who know Kannada, in Kannada we have a word called pete. And in the villages generally call cities as pete. Oh, avuru pete jana. Pete actually when translated turns out to be market. Right? So Girish knows it much better. So when you say pete jana, that is people of market. What does it indicate? What did people talk about when they said pete? Is it a place where people become contacts and interactions become networking? Or is it much more than that? It could be I don't want to put only a negative perception of the city before you today, because there are so many things that are happening, probably a place where probably tradition and modernity live side by side, parallelly, if not together. I don't know, I look forward to listening to Professor Ganesh Devi, who also, by the way, has been a support to m.i.l.a.p throughout. I went to his place in Dharwad in 2018 and sought his support, and he guided us in putting together one m.i.l.a.p. And he was to give the keynote for one of them, but he had something, a very important international assignment, so he couldn't. But his very close friends, many of them were there, and the keynote was delivered by Dr. Atamjit Singh for one of the years. But he has been with us. He's the mastermind behind m.i.l.a.p, one or two of them for sure. So very happy that he's also here for this event today. And whatever it is, the m.i.l.a.p, though it has shifted to Bangalore, for us in Manipal, it is we cannot decouple it from Manipal University Press, Manipal Universal Press now, MUP, because MUP's association with m.i.l.a.p continues. And just in the continuation of that tradition, we have 2 books being released today. Just very quickly about the 2 books that we are releasing. Interestingly, we didn't plan it that way, but both these books are about two young girls. One is a German, one is an Indian. Two different books, but it just happened that they came together. One of them is Momo, m.i.l.a.p, the German writer. I read this book for my little son long ago when he was a child, and I felt it was not really a children's book. It made a straight comment about the neoliberal aspirations, about having time as equating time with money, and how and this little girl in Germany, that's the girl called Momo, she fights time thieves. So I found the entire work full of fantasies, a lot of work, this little girl, engaging with, fighting with the time thieves to make a statement at the end of it. And it's a beautiful novel I read, and so we decided to commission it to somebody, and then we came across Srimati Jayashree Kasarvalli, who has done a lot of translation already. So we spoke to her, she readily agreed, and we are presenting this book today, and she's here, so very, very happy with that we are presenting this book. Another book that's going along with it is a story of Nitya, a young Indian girl who is in journey with her conservationist father, and that is in Agumbe. So two completely differently, in two different contexts, but both these two girls are having their beautiful journeys, and we are planning to present both these books. The book Male Kaadu Kathegalu is an e-book that we are going to release today. And so both these are being presented by Professor Ganesh Devi to the world, and I hope they are well received, and that we continue conversation about the journeys of these two children. And we still have a long journey ahead, and I would seek direction and guidance from Professor Ganesh Devi and all those who are present here. So a lot of colleagues are here, and those who are associated. This is just a beginning of m.i.l.a.p in Bangalore, and I seek your support as usual, that we have received your support in Manipal, and I wish the Bangalore team also gets the same support in the days ahead. So thank you very much. Have a nice 3 days time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Meeta Inamda, for tracing the legacy of m.i.l.a.p and initiating the release of the books. Now, it is time for the book release event. Momo, which was originally written in German, has been translated to Kannada by Jayashree Kasarvalli, a well-published author who is amidst us. It is our honor to have Professor Ganesh N. Devi as our chief guest for the inauguration of m.i.l.a.p 2023. Sir, I request you to release Jayashree Kasarvalli's translated book, Momo. Please on the stage to join him. Hearty congratulations to Jayashree Kasarvalli. Book release becomes extremely special when we can listen to the author or the translator. Ma'am, may I request you to speak a few words?
Very good morning to all of you. Professor Meeta Inamda ಅವರು ನನಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಶಿ ಮೇಡ್ ಮೀ ಮೈ ವರ್ಕ್ ವೆರಿ ಈಸಿ. ಏಕೆಂದರೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆ, ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ನನಗೆ ಸುಲಭ. m.i.l.a.p ಅವರ ಈ ಮೊಮೊ ಪುಸ್ತಕದ ನನ್ನ ಪಯಣ ಶುರುವಾಗಿದ್ದು ಆಕಸ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ. ಸುಮಾರು 2 ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ನಾನು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ದೇಶದ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಕಥೆಗಳನ್ನು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಅನುವಾದಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರುವಾಗ ಕೆಲವು ಕಥೆಗಳು ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಕಟಗೊಂಡದ್ದು ಉಂಟು. ಅದು ಮಯೂರ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಸುಧಾ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ತುಷಾರ ಅಂತ ನಿಯತಕಾಲಿಕ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಹಾಗೆ ನಾನು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಥೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕಂಡು ಬಹುಶಃ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ನೀತಾ ಇನಂದವರವರು ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಸಂಪರ್ಕಿಸಿದರು. ಮಿಲಾಪ್ ಅವರ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟಿಗೆ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿಕೊಂಡ್ರು, ಕಥೆಯನ್ನು ಅನುವಾದಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯವ ಅಂತ. ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ನಾನು ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಕಥೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕೆಲವೊಂದಷ್ಟನ್ನು ಅನುವಾದಿಸಿದ್ದೆ. ನವದೆಹಲಿಯ ತುಲಿಕಾ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ಗೆ ಸುಮಾರು 30-40 ಕಥೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಾನು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ. ಅವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ಬೈಲಿಂಗ್ವಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ಮಲ್ಟಿಲಿಂಗ್ವಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಗಳು. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಭಾಷೆಯಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಭಾಷೆಗೆ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ, ಕನ್ನಡದಿಂದ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಿಂದ ಕನ್ನಡಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ತಮಿಳಿಗೆ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಪ್ರತಿ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಆದರೆ ಇದು 250 ಪುಟದ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪುಸ್ತಕ, ಒಂದು ಕಾದಂಬರಿ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಆತಂಕ ಇತ್ತು. ಆವಾಗ ಮೀತಾ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಮಾತನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿದರು, ಮೊದಲು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೇನೆ, ಓದಿ ನೋಡಿ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದರೆ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ, ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದರೆ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ. ಪ್ರಾಯಶಃ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಆಯ್ಕೆಯನ್ನು ನನಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಟ್ರು. ಆ ಮುಕ್ತತೆ ನನಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟವಾಯಿತು. ಅಂದರೆ ಕಾದಂಬರಿಯನ್ನು ಓದಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಗ್ರಹಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯವೋ ಅಥವಾ ಹೇಗೆ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನು ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯವೋ ಅದರ ನಿಲುವಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯವನ್ನು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳುವ ಒಂದು ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಯನ್ನು ಅವರು ನನಗೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ರು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಆ ಕಾದಂಬರಿನ ಓದಿದೆ. ಆಗಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ನನ್ನ ಮುಂದೆ ಇಟ್ಟರು. ಸೆಪ್ಟೆಂಬರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಅವರು ಮೇವರೆಗೆ ನನಗೆ ಸಮಯ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದರು. ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಕಾದಂಬರಿ ನನಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮೊದಲ ಒಂದೆರಡು ಅಧ್ಯಾಯಗಳು ಸುಲಭ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ರು, ಕ್ರಮೇಣ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅದು ನನಗೆ ಕಷ್ಟವಾಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಬಂತು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ನಾನು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಿದ ಕಥೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಇರುವ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸಕ್ಕೂ ಈ ಕಾದಂಬರಿಗೂ ಬಹಳ ಒಂಥರ ವಿಭಿನ್ನವಾದಂಥ ನೋಟಗಳು, ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನಗಳು ಇದ್ದವು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿದಂಥ ಕಥೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕ ವಿವರಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಂದರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ದೇಶಗಳದ ಕಥೆಗಳನ್ನು ತಕ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಬದುಕಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಚಾರಿತ್ರಿಕ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಇವ್ಯಾವ ಬಿಕ್ಕಟ್ಟುಗಳಾಗಲಿ ಈ ಥರದ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳಾಗಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಮೊಮೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ಮೊಮೋದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಎದುರಿಸಿದಂಥ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಭಾಷೆ ಮತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುವಂಥ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ವೈಜ್ಞಾನಿಕ ವಿವರಣೆಗಳು, ಫ್ಯಾಂಟಸಿ, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡಕ್ಕೆ ತರಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಅದು ನನಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟ ಅನಿಸ್ತು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ನನಗೆ ವೈಜ್ಞಾನಿಕವಾಗಿ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಪಕ್ವಗೊಂಡಂಥ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಕೃತಿಯನ್ನು ನಾನು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಓದೂ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ನನಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ದು ನಿಜ. ಆದರೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಅವು ಕೂಡ ನನಗೆ ಸುಲಲಿತವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುವ ಒಂದು ಅನುಕೂಲವನ್ನು ಆ ಕಾದಂಬರಿ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಯಿತು. ಕಾದಂಬರಿಗೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ನನಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಬಂತು. ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಅನುವಾದ ಅಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಮೂಲ ಲೇಖಕರ ಅಡಿಯಾಳಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಹೋಗುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ನಮ್ಮದೇ ಆದ ಒಂದು ಮುಕ್ತತೆಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮದೇ ಒಂದು ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಅಥವಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ಗೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಮೂಲ ಲೇಖಕ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಗ್ರಹಿಸಿ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಅನುವಾದ ಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಥರದ ಅನುವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. ಭಾವಾರ್ಥಗಳನ್ನು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡೋರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಕೃತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಓದಿ ತಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಗ್ರಹಿಸಿದ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡೋರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಪ್ರಾಯಶಃ ನಾನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಓಲ್ಡ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗಲ್ಲೇ ಇರೋಳು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ನಾನು ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಕೃತಿಯು ಕೂಡ ಕೃತಿ ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಪದ ವಾಕ್ಯ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊರಟೋಳು. ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಈ ಮೂಲ ಕೃತಿಯಲ್ಲೇ ಉದ್ದುದ್ದ ವಾಕ್ಯಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ, ಸುದೀರ್ಘ ವಾಕ್ಯಗಳು ಅನ್ನೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಪ್ಯಾರ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಮೊದಲು ಹಾಗೇ ಅನುವಾದ ಮಾಡಿ ಮುಗಿಸಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಕೃತಿ ಅನ್ನುವ ಒಂದು ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನದಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ವಾಕ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು 2-3 ಆ ಥರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿ, ಕೆಲವು ಪದಗಳು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೊಲೊಕ್ವಿಯಲ್ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕನ್ನಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಒಗ್ಗುವಂಥ ಪದಗಳನ್ನು ಬಳಸಿದ್ದೇನೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಈ ಕೃತಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಕಾದಂಬರಿ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ವಸ್ತುವಿನ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದಾಗ, ಅಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಇದು 1973ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಂಥ ಕೃತಿ, ಅಂದರೆ ಈಗ 40-50 ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ m.i.l.a.p ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯೋಚಿಸಿದ್ದ ಅಂತ ನೋಡುವಾಗ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ನಾವು ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಿರೋವಂಥ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ, ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ಹಣ ಮತ್ತು ಸಮಯ ಹೇಗೆ ಅದು ಸಮೀಕರಿಸಿ ಉದಾರೀಕರಣದ ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ದೋಚ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅವರನ್ನು ಕೊಳ್ಳೆ ಹೊಡಿತಾ ಇದೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಾಗ ಆ ಒಂದು ವಸ್ತುವನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡು ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಗಂಭೀರವಾದಂಥ ಘನವಾದಂಥ ವಸ್ತುವನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥೈಸುವಂಥ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕಾದಂಬರಿಯನ್ನು ಹೆಣೆದಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಇದು ಹಿರಿಯರು ಕೂಡ ಓದುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕಾದಂಬರಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರೋಚಕತೆ ಇದೆ, ಸಾಹಸ ಇದೆ, ವಿಸ್ಮಯ ಇದೆ, ಹಾಗೆ ವಿಸ್ಮೃತಿ ಇದೆ. ಹಲವಾರು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ವೈಜ್ಞಾನಿಕ ವಿವರಣೆಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ರೀತಿಯ ಸಾಹಸಗಳನ್ನು ಕೈಗೊಂಡಂಥ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಕಥೆ ಇದೆ. ಹಲವಾರು ಪಾತ್ರಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಬಹಳ ಸುಂದರವಾದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕಾದಂಬರಿ. ಇದನ್ನು ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾದಂಬರಿಯನ್ನು ನನ್ನ ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ತಂದು ನನ್ನ ಮೂಲಕ ಅನುವಾದಕ್ಕೆ ಅನುವು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟವರು ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ನೀತಾ ಇನಮ್ದವರವರು. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಐ ಆಮ್ ವೆರಿ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಫುಲ್ ಟು ಹರ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಅಪರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ ನನಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದರಿಂದ. ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭದಿಂದ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಮೊನ್ನೆವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಇದರ ನನ್ನ ಅನುವಾದದ ಪಯಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೈ ಜೋಡಿಸಿದವರು ಮಿಲಾಪ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಪೃಥ್ವಿರಾಜ್ ಕವತಾರ್ ಅವರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನನ್ನ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಯನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕವನ್ನು ಇವತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡುಗಡೆಗೊಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥ ಮಣಿಪಾಲ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಪ್ರೆಸ್ಸಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪದಾಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನನ್ನ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆ ಹೃದಯ ತುಂಬಿದ ನಾನು ಸದಾ ಚಿರಋಣಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ. ಇಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳಿ ಈ ಕೃತಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತನ್ನು ನಾನು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಇವತ್ತು ಬಿಡುಗಡೆಗೊಂಡಿದೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಓದುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕೃತಿ, ಓದಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಒಂದು ಮನದಾಳದ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನ ಸವಿನಯವಾಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Thank you, Jayashree Kasravalli, for giving brief insights about the book. It has only left us with curiosity and great interest. Ma'am, we wish you will have a larger readership for this excellent translation work. Next, we have the release of the second book, Malekadina Kathegalu, Stories of the Rainforest, authored by Malvika Tiwari and edited by Deepta Satish. Malekadina Kathegalu is a fictional story set in the rich, dense rainforest of Agumbe, Karnataka. This book is a result of a research experiment responding to and reimagining the people's biodiversity register. The book reflects the realities and complexities surrounding countless changes in ancient ecologies due to forces of rapid development in a time of environmental crisis. The author of this book, Malvika Tiwari, is a designer and illustrator who uses visual narratives to tell stories of the environment. She finds her passion in working for wildlife and environment conservation. The editor of this book, Deepta Satish, is a design researcher, educator, architect, and planner. Her environmental practice is focused on landscapes in conflict and creating new pathways in design, education, and policy. Malekadina Kathegalu is a marvelously illustrated e-book. Once again, I request Professor Ganesh N. Devi to release this e-book. Keep the cover pages. Yeah. So that's the cover page and an experience of few glimpses of the illustrated book. May we join our hands together in applauding Malvika Tiwari and Deepa Satish. In absentia, we would love to send our congratulatory messages to the author and the editor. May this ebook find considerable amount of readership. Thank you, dignitaries. May please take your seats. Now to move towards the much-awaited keynote address by the Padma Shri awardee, Professor Ganesh N. Devi. Professor Ganesh N. Devi, a name well known for multifarious, noteworthy reasons, needs no introduction. Nevertheless, as a part of convention, may I request Dr. Sunayan Bhattacharjee, Associate Professor, Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, the convener of m.i.l.a.p 2023, to introduce Professor Ganesh N. Devi to the audience and invite him to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you, Dr. Anupama. Respected dignitaries on this stage and everyone present here, it's a rare opportunity to introduce Professor Ganesh Devi, one of the leading public intellectuals of this country. He needs no introduction. However, as Dr. Anupama said, we are just following the convention. Ganesh Devi is the thinker, cultural activist, and an institution builder best known for the People's Linguistic Survey of India and the Adivasi Academy created by him. He writes in 3 languages, Marathi, Gujarati, and English. His first full-length book in English, After Amnesia, which was published in 1992, was immediately hailed upon its publication as a classic in literary theory. Since its publication, he has written and edited close to 90 influential books in areas as diverse as literary criticism, anthropology, education, linguistics, and philosophy. Dr. Devi was educated at Shivaji University in Kolhapur and the University of Leeds in the United Kingdom. Among his many academic assignments, he held fellowships at the University of Leeds and Yale University and has been T.H.B. Simons Fellow and Jawaharlal Nehru Fellow. He was a professor of English at the MS University in Vadodara. In 1996, he gave up his academic career in order to initiate work with the denotified and nomadic tribes and Adivasis. During the work, he created the Bhasha Research and Publication Center at Vadodara, the Adivasi Academy at Tejgarh, the DNT Rights Action Group, and several other initiatives. Later, he initiated the largest ever survey of languages in history, carried out with the help of nearly 3,000 volunteers and published in 50 multilingual volumes. Although he is talking about the city inside the mind and outside, we would like to read his abstract as well. His abstract goes like this. The most remarkable foundation of the city as a sociological institution is that it's profoundly anti-national. One is not describing here the city as a traitor or as a criminal in the eyes of the given national code of law. What is meant here is that the historical process of the formation of nations, the nation as a political institution, has been very different from the historical process of the formation of the city as a sociological institution. The nation is an expression of the human race to bring many under a single and well-defined space. The city, on the other hand, is the expression of the desire to bring one into many chronological orders. May I invite Dr. Professor Ganesh Devi to come and set the stage. The stage is all yours, sir.
In the light of this lamp, because it was said that the lamp is yours, the light is yours, but the storm is yours. And I do not think that any storm can end the light. Rather, I want to speak about how you can have light in one hand and storm in another, and unleash the storms and throw the light also for the world. Also, please tell me if I'm right or wrong when I say, just say right or wrong, when I say that if you are speaking on city, then you must speak sitting. Right or wrong? Right? That's what I'm doing. You may not remember anything I said about the city, but you'll certainly remember that this man came and he sat down and spoke to us. I want to wish the Pro-Vice Chancellor a great innings, great success in constructing the space that institution is as a space that will unleash many hundred storms, a lot of light. He's taken charge just 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to wish both for Shilpa and Neeta a future course for this festival which will go on for centuries and then do what it is expected to do, that is to create the spaces where they are required, when they are required, for a free conversation. Thank you. Thank you for asking me to be your guest. And I congratulate Madam Kasarvalli on the book that she's translated. to the language. Bangalore, just in terms of its population, is about 1/5 of the entire Karnataka population. I shall not say, therefore, that it is the heart of Karnataka. No, the heart of Karnataka is Karnataka's ability to receive, to accept respectfully and peacefully. Karnataka is known as a state that loves peace, amity, and that is the heart of Karnataka. The heart of Karnataka is the thought of Akkamadevi and Basveshwar. I will also not say Bangalore is the soul of Karnataka. The soul of Karnataka is the great music and great literature that Kannada has produced. They really speak of, they really articulate what the soul of Karnataka is. I'll describe Bangalore as the belly of Karnataka. It is taking resources, natural resources, from all over, from the forest, the border, from the rivers, running through Karnataka, and the labor that Karnataka can produce, and transform A, either into energy, or B, into that which needs to be discarded. Bangalore is the belly of Karnataka. And in this belly, there has to be a new hunger now. In order to make this city what a city ought to be. And therefore, I shall present before you, with utmost humility, what I think is an ideal city. I'm going to read out so that I make no mistake in saying what I want to say. And I will request you for a patient hearing. Please tell me if you think that I should stop, I will stop. I don't mind. So here I go. By the way, the term civilization, if you open the dictionary, you will notice is based on the Latin word civil. Civil means city. Anything to do with city is civilization. Ancient civilizations are those where cities were created. Egypt, Iran, India, Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, cities, and therefore they qualify for being called as civiling or civilization. Nation is a more recent category. It takes birth as a word only 2000 years ago. And 2000 years ago, the word nation meant people. But as a political idea, only 200 years ago. And in that idea, nation is a constituting of people, placing them within a framework which is overtly political, yet expressive of the desires of the people. Civilization is much older. Nations belong to history. Civilization belongs to the much longer process of evolution that humans have come through to this stage. And therefore, city, please mark my words, is a much older unit of our being together than nations are. Think of the city of Berlin. Some 30 years back, Berlin belonged to two nations. And 30 years before that, it belonged only to one nation. Now it belongs to one nation. Who knows in future to how many nations it belongs? The city of Berlin remains there. Whether a Hitler comes there, I'm mentioning this because it's 2023, And Hitler comes there and drags books out of a library and burns there. Berlin remains the eternal Berlin. It has its guilt, it has its shame, it has its pride, it has its energy, it has its Beethoven, it has its Goethe, and yet this continuous flow of the city accommodates the sense of guilt, the sense of shame, the sense of pride, without making any one of those as the masthead of Berlin. Berlin comes to my mind because it begins with B. So we are a bee city, a city of bees. And you know, bees make a beehive not by bringing stone and brick and cement. They become the wall. We are the city, not our roads, not our buildings. We are the city. So this bee city, the story of this bee city through my eyes. But I'm not speaking about Bangalore. I'm sitting here. I'm speaking about my idea of city. And I hope Professor Girish has by now learned to forgive me for breaking the etiquettes of this international festival. May I go ahead? Thank you. God made country, man made the city was perhaps the most popular line in the intellectual discourse of the 18th century. Nita mentioned Pate as a marketplace, an evil place, but attractive evil, by the way. Particularly after the heart-rending scenes of migration foregrounded by the literary works like Oliver Goldsmith's The Deserted Village, it also fired poetry and paintings born out of what the contemporary German philosophers termed the assemblastic imagination. The entire romantic generation of philosophers, painters, and poets of France, Germany, Spain, Italy, and England shunned, just despised, the idea of having to create urban settlements. The copious paintbrush of Turner, for instance, did not have a single stroke to spare for an urban dwelling or street, though the children there were as innocent as the ones in the villages. If William Blake did speak of the children, as did Charles Lamb, it was to frighten the reader of the spectre of the sinful existence that a city has in store for the rural migrants. Rousseau's call for return to nature, though too late in the economic history of the colonial West, was found alluring by the pre-Marxists, the Romantics, the Symbolists, and even the pre-Raphaelites of a whole century. The idea of a city, despite its theater and the tantalizing possibility of not only philandering but making it by accepting the status of a perpetual Picaro, took a fairly long time to rise out of its stigmatized status as a den of sins. But by now, 65% India is urbanized. We have to accept it. The adolescent heroes of Charles Dickens, the fascinating heroines of Flaubert, and indeed the savage drama at the heart of the Beggar's Opera, all point to how harshly the city was considered by the social ethics of the first 2 centuries of the Industrial Revolution. And indeed, those were the cities whose entrances were adorned by the docks. By docks, I don't mean doctors, but the ports and by the sea. And indeed, those were the cities whose entrances were adorned by the docks crowded by the amorous sailors, crammed with ever-narrowing lanes, made heavy by houses rising to full 3 stories of height, obscuring the clear view of the cathedral or church, with back doors opening into deep-cut gutters, covered but with manholes that made night journeys of burglars and criminals look like an adventure. The city, as understood in those times, in short, was squalor. To make a city beautiful, long winding paths to the country had to be dug up by cutting small hills, like our way to the Bengaluru airport, made consciously, deliberately made beautiful. God alone knows how many gallons of water it sucks every day. These long paths, initially built for horse carts and hansoms alone, and the bridges built to span the port side rivers, allowing the thoroughfare between the citizen girls and the voyaging sailors, brought to the European cities for the first time a look, albeit a false look, of being seamless. Otherwise, of course, the cities giving rise to what Karl Marx called the capital were condemned to be prisons created by the landless and rootless for themselves in an attempt to become the merchants of avarice. Of course, there was a saving grace in the form of the Royal Silver Line added to the low market city shape, such as the Versailles and the Buckingham Palace. For instance, but really speaking, they belong to the medieval period. Their beauties were born in the Baroque or Gothic nurseries. Their sinews built of arches and pillars coined in the idiom of faith, just as the mosques in Spain and the forts in India were created on the foundation of theology rather than a pure, unambiguous statement of pride and power as a present-day Twin Tower in New York is, which was attacked, by the way. So I will change that example and think of the Central Vista in Delhi. It is not, of course, that the palaces were placed out of the cities. Rather, it was that the cities were spaced away from the royal enclosures. Vidhan Sauda and the rest of Bangalore. At least in the case of Paris, London and Vienna, that was so. Rome was a bit too old to have received this unique urban planning feature, and it had already lost the city throb to the grand old Vatican. In Italy, of course, many other things happen in an anachronistic manner. Cities like Siena, and Siena is all one color, just one color, and no other color. And the name of the color is, taken after Siena. Cities like Siena had already brought the entire citizenry within the fold of its peculiar royal splendor, drawn more out of the natural element, than out of a divine sanction, as the political systems in other European countries like to formulate. One has to understand that the Italian cities had perhaps to build themselves as anti-fortresses to the papal charm. The Diamond Palace in Italy and the Sundial in Bologna have a similar genesis, and those of you who read Browning will know that. Quite opposed to this, the world-famous La Ramblas Avenue of Barcelona, and I advise all the young people to go to this street at least once to know what a dancing step is and what the energy of youth is. Quite opposed to this, the world-famous Las Ramblas Avenue of Barcelona, throbbing with licentiousness and energy such as only the Spanish language can express, was already established 2 centuries before the Industrial Revolution got underway. In fact, it helped Columbus, it housed Columbus before Columbus went off to find the North American continent. Quite opposed to this, the world-famous Las Ramblas Avenue of Barcelona, throbbing with licentiousness and energy such as only the Spanish language can express, was already established 2 centuries before the Industrial Revolution got underway, and even remotely dreamt of disturbing the pastoral glow and warmth of Spain. As a price, perhaps, the post-revolution Barcelona had to keep tearing itself from the hustle-bustle and keep climbing above the mean sea level as far as it can. Perhaps you may know, may not know, when the Olympics were organized in Barcelona, they had to be organized on top of small hills rather than plain ground, because Barcelona is trying to tear itself apart from its past all along. New energy, modern energy has been ruling Barcelona. In a sharp contrast to the English, French and Dutch cities, the American cities are built differently. Even if the linguistic idiom forming the basis of their creation is drawn from European languages, the imaginary fueling their growth is deeply rooted in what the expression the American dream symbolizes. And the American dream is, in one simple word, big, bigger, biggest, till it bursts like a bubble. And our Bangalore does not belong to that order of B. It doesn't have an American dream. It has a typical Kannada soul in it. They are racing as if American cities are racing as if it were to challenge the idea of horizons, limits, what shit they seem to say. The force and the ferocity of the idea of city as the hub of civilization, as forged in the self-absorbed and aspiring American city, provides today the moving inspiration for Hong Kong and Dubai. They are built as if the human civilization did not begin at all until the automobile came into existence. There is also, these cities are not, those cities are not meant for human feet. Those cities will never experience how a small infant learns to take the first step and walk. Those cities are meant only for automobiles, and the day the automobiles will go, those cities will start looking terrible. We're close to that, by the way. There is also another variety of the urban grandeur interpreted literally as meaning big and bold. That is to be seen east of the now non-existing wall of Berlin in the Soviet bloc. One is not, of course, thinking, in fact, Soviet architecture has become now almost a dirty word, unfortunately. One is not, of course, thinking of the Grand Chancery building or the Berlin University. They were very much a product of the surpluses produced by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But the central quarters of Moscow and similarly of Beijing have on show this grandeur. It occupies too much space. The quadrangles and quartets of their own agrarian past, in China's case made tranquil by the Buddhist philosophy, came to be represented there after the revolutions in terms of the Lord alone is true. Even the statues placed in those vast spaces were created quite clearly to intimidate and to silence the viewers. One never had the courage to ask who, where, and why, while trying to keep them in view within a single pair of eyes, as one could while looking at the Pietra Dure of the Medici style, which came to our own Agra in medieval times, or just as looking at the amazing Michelangelo jobs. Some cities are built almost as if to force you to tear your eyes in order to grasp them. And the vertical bee that is growing perhaps belongs to that order of cityness. Whether it belongs to Bangalore bee or not, I don't know. Though the ancient past is a bit too forgotten unless it belongs to the affluent nations, Timbuktu should be a model one needs to bring in the discussion of intelligent cities. Damascus and Kabul are the other names, the wonderful cities. Alexandria, of course, needs a major place in the list, both for its intelligence as a city, as well as its irrevocable place in the history of the ancient as well as the modern world. We know very little of Machu Picchu, about which Pablo Neruda wrote. At least not as much as Pablo Neruda did. And the mythical Troy is not really accessible to us in terms of the usable ideas for creating and nurturing cities. Even if it could set on sail 1,000 ships of warriors at one time. Relatively, more accessible are the ideas that were shaped in the colonial times. Kolkata and Mumbai and their numerous younger and feeble siblings quickly learnt that the cantonment as the heart of the city must be kept outside the city. The cantonment belonged to the city because it was kept outside the city. Bangalore has its counterpart here. That was for security and authority, of course. Though Sydney and Perth easily far more intelligent than Chicago, they somehow carry clearly the mark of being the frontier cities coming up. In their case, the wide ethnic world of the southern hemisphere. Both Boston, still a lovely memory of the homelands across the ocean, and Washington, a city burdened with the responsibility of disciplining and civilizing the world, managed to look at the first glance a little untypical of the American idea of monstrosity as city, monstrosity as a museum of beauty. They soon reveal their identities to the second-time visitor. I mean, both Boston and Washington, the second time you go there, you realize that they are not so un-American. So varied are the philosophical, ideological, artistic and cultural roots of the city spread over the world that it is just impossible to offer a single definition of what a city really means, except that it is a place that holds too many in too small a space, and that's a good working definition. City is something which holds too many people in too small a space. But the hinterlands in many African countries, in Latin America, in Goa or in Kerala show that the law of too many in a continuous space is not enough for the definition of city. These areas have hundreds of miles of non-ending rows of houses all along the driveways, and yet the local people do their cartography in terms of adjacent villages, not as a city. The density of population per square kilometer or mile too is not so much of a useful definition. For thousands of pilgrimage places, the variable density as well as the constant density of population per square kilometer can be much higher than that in the very heart of the most populated city like Tokyo, Mumbai or New York. And yet those pilgrim places are not described as cities. These or any other quantitative measures such as the per capita consumption of energy, per capita of food, consumable goods, bank savings, borrowings, schools available, medical facilities or jobs or unemployment levels do not seem to serve the purpose as for defining cities. I heard in a recent conference held in Evian in France that a city is essentially a transportation hub. The argument was put forward quite energetically. I did not present the case of the Ambala camp or Panvel in Maharashtra. That far outdo the neighboring Chandigarh and Pune. I mean, Panvel is a greater transportation hub than Pune or Bombay. Ambala Kant is a greater transportation hub than Chandigarh or think of another city. The subtle relationship between Zurich and Geneva in Europe, or between Montreal and Vancouver, or that for matter between Agra Road and Delhi, need to be considered with all nuances to understand why transportation density can never be the measure for a location being a city or otherwise or not. If these quantitative parameters are not so good to define the unique formation that a city is, what would be the best alternative to finding its defining features? What is a city essentially? If the spatial scales do not yield results, can the temporal scales help? I mean, if space-related indicators don't help, would time-related indicators help? And therefore, I am getting into, briefly, before concluding, history, the question of history of a city. If we propose that a city is a place that brings the past and the future in a union, makes both permeable, manages to evolve an idiom of translating one to the other, the past to the future to the past, we may be able to bring many of the world's numerous cities under this single definition. These, for instance, can include Delhi, Shanghai, Vienna, Paris, Madrid, Venice, Tehran, Lhasa, Antwerp, Edinburgh, and London, and a long list of such others. Indeed, it has been the greatest among the accomplishments that the city as a medium of history has to score, that it allows modernity to flow out of the local tradition, that it enables modernity to be grafted successfully onto that tradition. The only problem with this definition is that the combat and the collaboration between tradition and modernity can be witnessed taking place with the same degree of intimacy or animosity in the smallest of the human habitation. The same confrontation or collaboration can be seen in some of the villages. Every primer of anthropology will tell us that even among the most traditional among traditional societies and among the smallest among the small indigenous groups, the tension between modernity and tradition plays itself out in precisely as numerous ways as in larger places and populations. And therefore, to think of city only as some mechanism that translates modernity to tradition, tradition to modernity won't be adequate. Perhaps rather than pointing to the dialectic between the traditional and the modern, it may be closer home to maintain that the city has a greater capacity to hold the two together without one destroying the other completely. One may even say that the city holds within itself many times, that it is not just a diachronic companion to the human soul, but a polychronic sustainer of the human spirit of quest. By allowing many times to remain there, allow your Tipu to remain there together with a terminal one, and that will give us the spirit of new quest. When a city blocks one or many levels of time existing within it, it slowly starts dying as a city. The cities that insist on keeping all of their traditions entirely unsullied and pure start ossifying and end up being ossified on their own volition. Not all cities in the past have gone down only because of being surrounded by or destroyed by what the Latin term describes as barbaric vernaculars. Most spell out the demise by closing their minds. When a city closes its minds, the city dies. The two most known examples of this and celebrated in imaginative literature are the ancient Troy and the 20th century city of Oran, as in Albert Camus' The Plague. The first closed its gates to all possibilities of combat as indication of the destruction. The second sealed its borders as a cure for its inner infection. London, prior to the Great Fire, was getting close to this condition but decided to open up after the calamity, though the significance of the shifting of the theatre space has yet to be fully stated. In those cities that allow many times to live together within its spaces, that sustainability is ensured. A city, in other words, has to be chronologically eclectic. Such eclecticism enables it to provide spiritual solace to a larger sociological, ethnic, linguistic, and cultural diversity, particularly particularly source in the city is a non-theological formulation. Please remember, city is not a dharmic formulation. A city cannot sustain ideas of a dharma for a very long time. If those ideas are imposed on a city, the city will start dying. The stress arising out of transportation mismanagement can perhaps be cured by innovating transport technologies. But the city stress caused by elimination of one or several levels of time from its lifestyles, habitation patterns, speech rhythms, visual forms can hardly be reduced or cured by any innovation in technologies. My last part. A city becomes sustainable only if it learns to live in many times with an equal degree of ease. In India, the phenomenal and completely unpredicted growth of Delhi is a result of Delhi's ability to be historical, contemporary, and futuristic at one and the same time. On the other hand, a mighty medieval capital like Chapaner in Gujarat went down like 9 pins because it remained obsessed with the present alone. It blocked itself from the past and the future that was spreading out in the plains of Ahmedabad. In contrast, when Ahmedabad replaced Chapaner, it survived as a thriving city for 4 centuries, even when dynasties came up and went down. Different industries and livelihood patterns came up and went down. Put in very simple words, the cities without sympathy for the past and a sensitive and friendly eye for the future really have no present at all. Put very simply, the cities without sympathy for the past and a sensitive and friendly eye for the future really have no present at all. The most remarkable foundation of the city as a sociological institution is that it is profoundly anti-national. One is not describing here the city as a traitor or as a criminal in the eyes of the given national code of law. What is meant here is that the historical process of the formation of nations, the nation as a political institution, has been very different from the historical process of the formation of the city as a sociological institution. Though for administrative purposes cities are placed within nation, we should never forget that the making of a nation is one process, the making of a city is completely different process. And the city's spirit should never subsume itself, never be subsumed under the spirit that makes a nation, which is necessary. Making of nations is necessary. But the makeup of a city is not the material for making of a nation. The nation is an expression of the human race to bring many under a single and well-defined space. The city, on the other hand, is the expression of the desire to bring into one space many chronological orders. The processes are exactly opposite. To bring many under one, to bring, to impose one on many, quite different. Seen from a purely pedestrian point of view, a given city invariably forms a part of one or the other nation, and city is bound to have its political affiliation, and in that sense it belongs to nation. But while cities thrive on their ability to host diversities, nations prosper because they succeed in bringing people under a common or a shared code of political and legal norms. Perhaps the human race has an innate inclination towards fostering diversity. Therefore, the nation as a political institution has been relatively short-lived than the city as a civil institution. And this is a historical fact. It is not an opinion that I am presenting. In history, we have numerous examples of specific national identities having gone down, whereas the cities within those nations have continued to exist. Every time I moved to a new city, it has primarily been moving into a new dwelling, and every time I move into the new city, I have myself acquired new identities, and yet I have noticed that moving through all these cities all over the world, there is one thing common in all cities, and that is a city is a space that allows many to come together. Whether they want to strike a relationship with one another is another thing. But a city does not threaten the manyness of the people. And it is the manyness of the people that pushes the process of civilization along the path of evolution forward. If any city tried to make all its citizens alike, the city will go down, but the process of evolution will also be thwarted, and the very idea of civilization, in its Latin sense, belonging to city, making city, or in modern sense, will also be destroyed. The victory of the many, the victory of diversity, the triumph of imaginaries that allow other imaginaries, is the name of city, whether it is Bangkok, Berlin, or Bangalore. And I am proud of Bangalore because, not because, Bangalore allows the manyness of people, quite frankly. Bangalore allows 35 different dialects of Kannada being spoken here. Bangalore allows so many religions. The churches of Bangalore and the mosques of Bangalore and the temples and the mutts of Bangalore are not churches and mosques and mutts and temples. Their being there is the soul of Bangalore. Namma Bengaluru. Yes, that is my Bangalore. The 40% cut Bangalore is a passing phenomenon. The ditches in the streets are a passing phenomenon. The metro coming or going is a passing phenomenon. The greatness of Bangalore is in its ability to tolerate many, to sustain many, to welcome many, cherish many, and allow the many to blossom. The many blossoms of Bangalore makes it the city of flowers, city of gardens. And I salute that Bangalore with you in your presence. I once again salute that Bangalore of many gardens. Thank you.
Summarizing session, I'm reminded of Robert Flaw's poem, The Road Not Taken. I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. That is what we saw right now. Once again, may we have a huge round of applause for this thought-provoking and insightful keynote address. I'm glad to express that this keynote address by Professor Ganesh N. Devi has given critical insights on the topic, the city, inside the mind and outside. This has invariably given a momentous start to m.i.l.a.p 2023. Thank you so much, sir. This keynote address and other sessions are recorded by Book Brahma. I'll repeat, Book Brahma, and will be available on Book Brahma website. Kindly visit. We are moving closer towards the closure of the inauguration ceremony of m.i.l.a.p 2023. Leading people is the most responsible and therefore the most rewarding undertaking of human endeavors. With a unique leadership style, our Pro-Vice Chancellor creates a positive working environment. It is a moment of extreme pleasure to invite Dr. Madhu Veera Raghavan, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Bengaluru campus, to give the presidential remarks.
Shri Ganesh Devi, and all the other dignitaries on the stage, and my colleagues and students over here, it is an absolute pleasure for me to first listen to the most mesmerizing reading I've ever had in my life of 50 years. And I was just stunned by the depth, the meaning, and the character of it. And he spoke about what is an ideal city. I grew up, I'm a son of a banker, so I lived around many cities in India, was born in Bihar, grew up in Lucknow city, lived in Delhi, lived in Mumbai, never lived in South. Then went to the most beautiful city, which I think is the beautiful city in the world, it's Melbourne city. Lived in Melbourne for 20 years. Lived in New Zealand, lived in Auckland city, which I also think is a very beautiful city. And you know, in all of my travels around the world, I've practically traveled to over 100 plus countries. Never been to Damascus or Kabul, which you said are wonderful cities. But it never struck me at any point in time, what is an ideal city? Until I heard you speak today. You know, when you travel to cities, when you travel around the world, I for one would look at the great architecture, the Victorian architecture or whatever else it is, and the, you know, and the smell, the feel, the touch of the city. But I've never for one, I understood or I asked myself this very fundamental question about what is an ideal city. He spoke about Berlin, a city that I've also traveled several times. It has guilt, shame, pride, energy, Beethoven and Goethe. He spoke about Sydney and Perth as two very intelligent cities, and they are very intelligent cities, no question, smart cities or whatever you want to call them. He spoke about the most populated cities in Tokyo, Mumbai, and New York City. Transportation hubs in Ambala, Panvel, Chandigarh. And what I loved about your talk, Dr. Devi, is I was going to ask you the question, but you preempted and answered it. When does a city die? Does a city die? And you said it so eloquently. A city dies when it closes its minds. When does a university die? Does it also die when it closes its minds and not allow the freedom of expression, sharing of perspectives, sharing of ideas, dissent, disagreement, constructive criticism? Perhaps it dies. Why is an Oxford an Oxford? A Cambridge? Perhaps an Ashoka today. You know, we never stop, we never ponder about these very important questions. The beautiful thing about the commonality you spoke about city, and I wish I could take all of the pages you have written. Space that allows many to come together. If I drew a parallel between where the city is and where a university is, I actually don't see much of a difference. Because universities should also allow many to come together. Many ideas to come together. It has been 96 hours, perhaps, a little less than that, since I took over as a PVC of Bangalore campus. And, you know, it's been just an amazing learning experience. Every single minute, I've only learned from everybody in this place. And, you know, living in Manipal, another small town, but living in Manipal, I never actually knew what a great and wonderful set of talented people we have in MAHE Bangalore. And a university like city is not the buildings, it's not the roads, it's us. And so you may have great flyovers, great bridges, but that does not define a city. And consequently, the brick and mortar buildings shouldn't define a university. It perhaps never was. We chose to make it that huge buildings should characterize and should define what a university is. And maybe not. I'm absolutely honored. I wrote something, but whatever I've written is not even worth. I think what I scribbled on the back from your mesmerizing and jaw-dropping, awestruck I was. And that has much more meaning than the 20 lines I scribbled, which is not even worth reading in your presence. But since I wrote it, I may want to say a few words about it. I will try and draw a parallel. I was doing something on art. I'm definitely not an artist. But what struck me about the Bangalore campus is the phenomenal and diverse talent that MAHE Bangalore. I don't think Manipal has anything close to what MAHE Bangalore has. And I know I've been here for only 3 to 4 days. I can put my hand on my heart and tell you that Srishti alone today produces the sort of diversity that I think no other institute in MAHE Bangalore actually has. I've spoken to many Srishti faculty. There are people who, I'm going to talk to some transgenders, as Mamta is here. Mamta is here? Okay, so there's a thing at 11:45 I'm supposed to go. I mean, the sort of diversity that the university has is just mind-blowing. So I was thinking about what does art do? How does art impact us at all? Both in a mental sense and a physical sense. And there's a lot of excellent work at Emory and other top schools where people talk about the importance of art and how they bring art. So they say that, art is actually part of historians deemed necessary for a group of people to be considered a society. Art, along with writing, cities, and we spoke a lot about cities today, governments, religion, and social structure, is the very basis of life, as we as humans have known it for millennia. So I wondered, and I was talking to Shilpa while you were giving a talk, I just wrote a small note for her, and I was thinking, in our programs today, in all of the programs that the university has, whether it's Bangalore or Manipal, how are we bringing in art? And where are we bringing in art? Do we have an artist in residence? People talk about editors in residence, writers in residence. Do we have artists in residence? And not just an artist who draws a great canvas and a paint, but how does that art influence your thinking? How does it shape us as humans? Perhaps art is a very essential part of our experience. And I must stop and I must step back and think about this. Even if it doesn't play a big role in our personal lives, maybe it shapes the world. I've not realized it until today, until I heard you speak so beautifully. Do we experience art when we interact with people? Do we experience art when we watch TV? Do we experience art? Do we think about civilizations most of the time? Does it impact us whether we are happy or sad or moody or anywhere in any of those emotional states? How does art impact? And we have not really thought much about these things. But I want to congratulate Shilpa and the entire team for putting together what promises to be an outstanding 3 days at MAHE Bangalore. And it is such a pleasure to be able to be part of all of this great moments. One of the great joys you have when you're leading a university is that you get to be amongst all sorts of experts and all sorts of people. And I'm very delighted that I was a little under the weather, and in the morning I was not doing that great, but I just didn't want to miss your talk, and I didn't want to miss the event. So I would request all of you to join me in thanking Shri Ganesh Devi for what has been a most magnificent talk that I have heard. And city with sitting also, I mean, my colleague here from Kolhapur, I'm sure Jada will also talk a little bit about how Kolhapur is a city, and you're from Kolhapur. There you go. So he's been calling me to Kolhapur and telling me, you should come to Kolhapur sometime, Madhu, and have a look at what a great city it is, and I think I should. But now that you've spoken so much about cities, whenever I'm traveling to a city, I'm going to try and remember some of your words and see if I can actually make that connect. I love the Flinders, I love the hinterlands. You spoke about hinterlands. Not many people speak about hinterlands. And Melbourne has some great hinterlands. Victoria has great hinterlands as a state. I've traveled to many parts of Europe. But we get mesmerized by things that we probably shouldn't get mesmerized by. But the character of a city is important. The manyness of it's important. The blossoming of people is important. So I'm just absolutely over the moon that you are here and that you gave this wonderful speech, talk, reading. So I thank you very much, and I thank all of you for your patient hearing, and I look forward to having more such conversations and look forward to welcoming you again and again to MAHE Bangalore. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
May I request the Deputy Registrar, MAHE Bengaluru Campus, Dr. Raghavendra Prabhu, to propose the vote of thanks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to one and all present here. So, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, MAHE Bengaluru Campus is proud to host m.i.l.a.p 2023. It has been a privilege to be a part of this special occasion. So, before I thank the dignitaries on and off the dais, I express my deep sense of gratitude to our Chancellor, Dr. Ramdas M. Pai, and Mrs. Vasanti R. Pai, the First Lady of Manipal, for their blessings and encouragement to all our endeavors. Our gratitude to Dr. Ranjan R. Pai, the President, MAHE Trust, for his constant guidance and support. I thank our beloved Vice Chancellor, Lieutenant General Dr. M.D. Venkatesh, for his consistent encouragement and support to organize this event. My sincere gratitude to our chief guest of today's function, Professor Ganesh N. Devi, for delivering the keynote address and setting the tone for m.i.l.a.p 2023. Your speech was indeed thought-provoking, sir. May I request Mr. Raghupati N. Kavle to facilitate Professor Ganesh N. Devi with a moment. So please. Thank you so much, sir. I sincerely thank Dr. Madhvir Raghavan, the Pro-Vice Chancellor of MAHE Bengaluru Campus, for presiding over the event and for delivering the presidential remarks. Thank you, sir, for your continuous encouragement and support. May I request Dr. Arindam Das, the Director of SMI, to felicitate Dr. Madhvir Raghavan. Thank you so much, sir. My deepest gratitude to Professor Neeta Inamdar for offering the unconditional support for m.i.l.a.p 2023 as an advisor. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today as the guest of honor. May I request Dr. Harini Santanam, the HOD of Department of Public Policy, to felicitate Dr. Neeta Inamdar. Thank you, ma'am. I thank Ms. Jayashree Kasarvalli for joining us as a special guest during this inaugural ceremony. Ma'am, we are delighted to have you with us today. May I request Dr. Shilpa Kalyan, the head of Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities and Social Science, to facilitate Ms. Jayashree Kasarvalli. Thank you, ma'am. I thank immensely Dr. Shilpa Kalyan, the head of Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, who is a driving force in organizing all the events organized under the banner of m.i.l.a.p 2023, and also for delivering the welcome address. Thank you, ma'am. So thanks to all the authors, poets, artists, writers, literary critics, entrepreneurs, representatives from the publishing world, educators and students from various universities and colleges for joining us during this event at our campus. We hope you have a great time over the next 3 days. We appreciate your participation in making this event a grand success. Thank you all. I am grateful to all the heads of constituent units of MAHE Bengaluru campus, the heads of supporting departments, faculty, staff, students of MAHE Bengaluru for their unconditional support and cooperation towards organizing this mega event. Thank you. We extend our wholehearted support and thanks to all the members of press and electronic media for giving the wide coverage of this event. Thank you. I would be failing in my duty if I do not thank Dr. Girishan and Dr. Sunayan Bhattacharjee, the conveners of m.i.l.a.p 2023, and all the dedicated and motivated teaching and non-teaching staff members, volunteers of m.i.l.a.p 2023 for a very meticulous planning and organization of mega event. Thank you all. So immensely thankful to the Master of Ceremony, Dr. Anupama, for her wonderful efforts towards anchoring this program. So thank you, Dr. Anupama. So once again, thank you all. Have a wonderful intellectual journey during the next 3 days. Thank you very much.
We thank our Deputy Registrar for trusting us with m.i.l.a.p 2023 and for the relentless support he extended throughout. May I request Dr. Aditya sir to felicitate our Deputy Registrar. Thank you, sir. Audience, please note we are slightly delayed in our schedule. So the events which were supposed to begin at 12 noon will begin at 12:15. So 3 events will start parallelly. First, masterclass on Bengaluru in the Cultural Imaginary of Kannada by Professor Rajendra Chenny in the same venue, that is Quartet Auditorium. Another masterclass on ecologically responsible Bengalurian, an oxymoron by Sharat Chandra Lile in Katte, room number 502 on the 5th floor of the same building. Next, My Body is the City, a theatre workshop to explore body, expression, self, and stories by Nisha Abdullah and Debosmitha Dam in Cantonment, room number 501 on the 5th floor of the same building. If there's anyone in the audience who is interested to participate in this workshop, I request you to register at the registration desk and attend the same. A book exhibition is an excellent opportunity to build visitors' home libraries, further their reading and comprehension skills. We are proud to host book exhibition at m.i.l.a.p 2023. Request the dignitaries on the stage to move towards the book exhibition area for the formal inauguration. Before that, I have another announcement. I also request the delegates to be a part of the inauguration of photo exhibition, Truth, Dream, at Rue House number 4 at SMI. This will be inaugurated by Dr. Arindam Das, Director of Srishti Manipal Institute. Thank you, everyone. Now I request the dignitaries to move towards the book exhibition area. Request Dr. Shilpa Kalyan to guide the dignitaries, please.
The literary and cultural festival of an international standard is hosted by Manipal Institute. It's a pleasure to be here. Such festivals allow thinkers, artists, practitioners, historians, philosophers to come together and reflect deeply on an important subject. This time the theme is the city of Bengaluru. This is the 4th edition of the festival, and it's most appropriate that this festival is thinking about, reflecting on what Bengaluru is, what it should be, what is the idea that sustains Bengaluru. I gave the keynote address this morning, in which I said that a city becomes a city not just because it is a transportation hub or a large space or has a large population or is consumer of resources and producers of services. A city is a city because it allows many to come together, to meet and to continue many memories of his past in the present and to the future. And if a city can become that negotiation place for many people, many types, many religions, many languages, many social classes, and allows all of those to carry their memories forward to the future, the city has sustainability. Bangalore today has a tremendous challenge of infrastructure. The roads are crumbling. The transportation is in a problematic stage. There is also a question of corruption eating into the soul of our society. But all of those problems can be solved by the people. However, just solving those problems is not enough to keep the spirit of Bangalore alive. The spirit of Bangalore will remain alive if it perpetuates the founding values of Bangalore, which are of tolerance, acceptance, and togetherness. Karnataka is a peace-loving state. Bangalore forms nearly 1/5 of Karnataka's population, and elsewhere in Karnataka, every family has some connection with Bangalore because somebody from that family is in Bangalore earning for the family. And therefore, what happens in Bangalore will happen in Karnataka, and what happens in Karnataka will happen in the rest of the world. Hence, in my opinion, the theme chosen for this festival is absolutely the most apt, a theme which is absolutely the must at a time and a place where that theme had to be discussed. And therefore, I congratulate the minds that designed this festival, and I want to thank the Manipal Institutes for hosting such a festival. Absolutely the apt thing to do at a time when it had to be done. I feel very happy and privileged to be part of this.
Namaskara. Manipal International Literature and Arts Platform, m.i.l.a.p. This is a tradition of MAHE. After 3 editions of m.i.l.a.p. at Manipal campus, m.i.l.a.p. has now reached Bangalore campus. And this is the theme for m.i.l.a.p. this year. The 4th edition of m.i.l.a.p. is in conversation with Bengaluru, city spaces, transitions, intersections, and imaginaries. Manipal International Literature and Arts Platform, m.i.l.a.p. This has been a tradition at MAHE. This m.i.l.a.p. is the 4th edition. 3 editions of m.i.l.a.p. were held at Manipal campus, and 4th edition we are hosting it here at Bangalore campus. It's a joy for us. This is a 3-day event. We have almost a lineup of 45-50 speakers across 3 days, hosting several master classes, performances, panel discussions, artwork, film screenings, and film discussions. We have the likes of Professor Ganesh Devi, who delivered the keynote speaker. We have Mr. Girish Kasarvalli, whose film is being screened, and we have a master class by Mr. Girish Kasarvalli. We have Mr. Sharat Chandra Leele. We have Professor Rajendra Chenni. We have several other renowned speakers who will be part of this festival over 3 days. We hope m.i.l.a.p will engage the readers and art connoisseurs in Bangalore to come and have a conversation with all the artists, writers and literary critics and educators of Bangalore during the 3-day event. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's just wonderful that MAHE Bangalore today is organizing m.i.l.a.p for the first time at the Bangalore campus. It's been running, of course, at the Manipal campus, but we're delighted that we have a great show lined up and what a fantastic one is planned for the next 2-3 days. I'm sure that many of you will come and take part and participate in the event. We had a great talk today by Shri Ganesh Devi on what your cities actually do, what is an ideal city. I mean, to bring that and to draw a parallel with what universities should do, and universities should actually promote multiple ideas, perspectives, and great minds sort of think like that, right? And that's what is important. So I'm delighted that we've been able to host this, and it won't be the last time. We will continue m.i.l.a.p every year at MAHE Bangalore campus in bigger and better size. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.